My name is James Sr., and I've been asked to give a presentation on the question for the special town meeting on February 22nd relative to whether or not the Hillview Commission should be elected or appointed. First, by way of some background, the Hillview Commission was created by a town meeting vote in January of 1988. The Hillview Study Committee had been in existence for approximately 9 months prior to that, investigating the taking of the Hillview property by eminent domain. The main concern of the Study Committee at that time was to give the town meeting an accurate assessment of the need for the preservation of the property in view of its environmental importance, value as open space, recreational opportunities, and the economic potential of the property in terms of supporting the cost of the acquisition. In its report at that time, the Study Committee stated, "The philosophy which has governed the Hillview Study Committee is that the town should not consider acquiring the property or expending funds unless there is a compelling need to do so. The committee's general philosophy is that no town should become involved in any activity unless such involvement is necessary to provide for a valid public need which cannot or will not be served by private industry. The acquisition of the property for the sole purpose of operating a golf course was never considered appropriate." At the time of the town meeting establishing the Hillview Commission, there were approximately 60 days within which the town would be required to have the golf course up and running if it were to take advantage of the spring golf season, a season where a major portion of the annual revenues are generated. Equipment had to be purchased. An arrangement had to be made with the former owner for the continued occupancy of the function hall, including the negotiation of a rental amount. Most importantly, a management contract had to be put out to bid and awarded in time for the new management company to get ready to do the work necessary to open the course. All of this had to be done and done well so that the course would not only be open, but would be in a condition satisfactory to the golfers who would be supporting the business. At the same time, the new commission would need to establish procedures for the operation of the course, assess the condition of the property, and develop a plan for capital improvements, including new and replacement equipment, improvement of existing mechanical facilities such as the sprinkler system, the roof on the building, and the heating electrical systems in the building. Improvements to the layout of the golf course, including safety improvements and improvements to the playability of the course. Improvements in the condition of the course. While these improvements were not expected to take place immediately, a plan had to be developed quickly so that the business potential of the property would be maximized. The Study Committee had also worked hard to commence the process of procuring state funding. It estimated that the town would be awarded a $1.5 million grant. The new commission would need to quickly follow up on this state funding to avoid the towns having to make a decision as to whether to support the enterprise with tax dollars or sell a portion of the property to replace the anticipated grant money. All of these things had to be done by a business which did not exist prior to that January town meeting and which did not know if it would exist until the vote was taken. In addition to environmental, recreational, and business issues, the Study Committee had briefly examined the format which it thought the new commission should take. The possibilities which were discussed were election, appointment by the moderator, appointment by a joint appointing authority, appointment by the Board of Selectmen. The committee's conclusions were as follows. An election was not possible in view of the limited time available to accomplish the work needed to get the fledgling business off the ground. The time necessary just to hold an election exceeded the time available. Following an election, it would be impossible for newly elected commissioners to gain the necessary knowledge in time to make the project succeed. Appointment by the moderator was considered. It was determined, however, that the moderator already had a difficult task for any one person as the appointing authority for the Finance Committee. Also, it was felt that the appointment of 2 boards that could have substantial impact on the financial well-being of the town was too much authority to put in the hands of any one person. Appointment by a joint appointing authority was not a viable option in view of the Study Committee. It was felt that such a proposal at the special town meeting would lead to considerable debate and confusion, serving only to cloud the real issue of the meeting, which was to decide on the merits of the land acquisition. It was therefore concluded that the recommendation to the town meeting would be to have the Hillview Commission appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The Study Committee was not unmindful of the disadvantages of creating an appointed Hillview Commission, particularly where it had received numerous comments from residents who who were adamant that if the Hillview was to succeed, it must be free of the politics and pressures of town government. However, in the circumstances and at that time, no better alternative existed. The Hillview Commission consists of 7 members having 3-year terms. The Commission is charged with the responsibility of negotiating contracts to be entered into by the town administrator. These contracts include purchase of supplies, equipment purchases and leases, management contracts for the golf course, leases for the function hall, contracts for improvements to the building and grounds. The Commission manages the property and the business of the enterprise in a manner similar to a board of directors of a corporation. It makes policy decisions for the operation and for the use of the premises. Because the Commission has but 1 employee, a part-time administrator, it is also a working commission. Commissioners perform inspections and evaluations of the physical plant. They plan necessary repairs. They make financial projections. They create capital plans for the short and long term. They are a landlord, and they respond to emergency situations such as break-ins and system failures. The Hillview Commission does not have the power to enter into any contract, agreement, or purchase on its own. It can do so only with the town administrator. It does not even have the power to hire its own administrator or set a salary for that position. The Hillview Commission does not maintain, control, or official accounting of the funds of the enterprise. This is done strictly through Town Hall. All monies go directly into accounts controlled by the Town Hall. The Commission has no policy-making, regulatory, or other function beyond the scope of the enterprise, which is now defined as the Hillview property. The job of the Hillview Commission is to effectively manage the business and the property and to see that the assets of the business are properly used to preserve both. There's a natural conflict between the position of the Board of Selectmen and the position of the Hillview Commission. While certainly there has been a substantial conflict between several members of the Board of Selectmen and the Hillview Commission over the past 15 months, it's not that specific conflict alone which should determine whether the Hillview Commission is elected or appointed. However, the recent conflict should be kept in mind, for it demonstrates that when the power to appoint rests in a 5-member board, that power resides in 3 people. If 2 members of a 5-member board choose to rely totally on a 3rd member to make the decision, the power to appoint resides in 1 person. It was for this very reason that the power to appoint was not placed in the moderator in the first instance. When the power to appoint rests in a small number of people, personality conflicts or friendships, emotions and petty politics can enter into the appointment process. The Hillview enterprise is too important for the town for these factors to control appointments. When the power to appoint rests in the Board of Selectmen, appointments may be made without examination of the qualifications of the individuals involved, without discussion, and without the relative merits of the candidates ever becoming known. It is imperative that the Hillview Commissioners be chosen based upon their qualifications and their skills. The Hillview enterprise is a $1.2 million per year business. However, the conflict of which I'm speaking is the natural conflict brought about by the positions and functions of the 2 boards. The Board of Selectmen is a general policy-making board. Although it has licensing and regulatory functions, one of its main functions, and the function most visible to the voters, is budgetary. People demand that the selectmen deliver services. However, people, particularly in an economy such as that which exists today, do not want higher taxes. Faced with this pressure, it is incumbent upon the selectmen to maintain services without increasing taxes. Making the town government more efficient is a difficult task. Cutting the fat from the town budget usually involves cutting services. Every service is important to someone. Increasing taxes is not acceptable. User fees, a once creative source of additional revenues, have been overworked. Another source of funding must be found. Services must be maintained without increasing taxes. The Hillview Commission, as described earlier, runs a $1.2 million a year business. Funds beyond debt service and annual operating cost exist. Much of this excess must be put back into the operation and its facilities to keep the business healthy. The selectmen have an incentive to support general government's operating costs with as much of the funding from the Hillview revenues as is legally possible. The Hillview Commission's main concern should be to maintain the quality of the Hillview operation in order to protect the Hillview assets and in order to protect its income. This is the natural conflict. With an appointed Hillview Commission, the Board of Selectmen has the power to fill Hillview positions with people having less dedication to expending funds to ensure the quality of the Hillview operation. The Board of Selectmen can refuse to reappoint anyone who disagrees with it or speaks out in opposition to the board. Ultimately, it's the people of the town at a town meeting who should decide the question of how much is to be returned to the town from the Hillview operation. To properly decide this question, the town meeting should be presented with all of the facts, all of the information, both sides of the question. An elected Hillview Commission would have the independence necessary to disagree with the Board of Selectmen, if necessary, and to present the other side. If the Selectmen and the Hillview Commission agree, the townspeople may then feel comfortable that such an agreement has come about in view of an agreement between two boards with different points of view. The election process is more open than the appointment process. An election affords each candidate the opportunity to present his or her point of view, experience, and qualifications. The townspeople will know the candidates and to choose among them in an open and democratic process. Any person desiring to run for office will have the opportunity to do so. It is not necessary to have a prior association with a member of the Board of Selectmen. Each person is given a fair chance. The majority of the voters will choose based upon their understanding of the qualifications, experience, performance, and talent of the candidates. The position of Hillview Commissioner is not a politically powerful or influential position. It's more of a working board. It's known as a working board. Therefore, candidates are more likely to be people who desire to work for the town than they are to be people who are interested in wielding political clout. There have been several comments made about possible deficiencies in the election process. The first comment that I've heard is that an election can be expensive for someone. Someone who wants to serve the town but can't afford to pay $1,000 or $1,500 in advertising costs. I think that that can be overcome. I believe that not just for the position of Hillview Commissioner, but for other positions in town, the cable television access should be utilized more often. There could be televised interviews with candidates. This would be at no expense to any candidate. There could be debates if the opponents could agree to a format for those debates and agree to participate in them. And again, this would be at no cost to any individual. These matters of access to cable television, I believe, would make it possible for people who are interested in running for the Hillview Commission, because they want to serve the town, to be able to do so. I also feel that the position of Hillview Commissioner, since it is a working commission, is not likely to attract the type of political campaigning that we have for other boards which have traditionally been political in the town of North Reading. If one seeks to serve on the Hillview Commission, one thing that he ought to be aware of is that it's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be less speech making, there's going to be less television appearances, and it's going to be merely a matter of getting the job done. Another advantage, which I didn't mention earlier, of the election of Hillview Commissioners is that there's been a lot of talk lately about limitation of terms for public officials or people serving on committees. Each time there's an election for any position, and for the Hillview Commission, that's an opportunity for the voters, if they feel that any particular individual has become stagnant in his position, that the board has not been performing or having creative ideas, to vote in a new idea. Traditionally in this town, the people who have served the longest in any position have served in appointed positions, not elected positions. The voters tend to look at performance and to determine, based on the merits of that performance, whether or not a person should be allowed to serve the community further. The choice of Hillview Commissioner is too important to be but one possible issue in a campaign for selectmen. It should be a question in which every voter participates. In a corporate setting, each stockholder votes for the board of directors. The Hillview should be run like a business, and the people, who are the stockholders, are capable of deciding who will do that best. Thank you.
That's I'm Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and I was originally asked by Klaus Kubiaski to take a position in opposition to an elected Hillview